Cars will argue.
Oh, hang on, sorry.
Can I do a Barnaby Joyce?
Sit down! Sorry, it's a dog.
Seriously. John Smailes, he's the head of the Australian Motorsport Hall of Fame. He's the chairman there, and deservedly so. He has an extensive career in media and motorsport. And John dropped by a little earlier for a chat. So let's catch up with John Smailes. John, thanks very much for coming in to talk to us today.
My pleasure, Cam.
Yeah, really appreciate it. For those of you who probably recognise John's name, he of course has written a number of books, including this one, Race Around the World, based on the 1968 London to Sydney Marathon, I should say is the correct term. But also Colin Bond's recent book, which is Full Tilt, which I've read, was penned by yourself with Colin. What a fantastic read that was.
Thank you very much indeed for saying so. Colin, of course, was integral in the development of the Holden versus Ford battles at the height of that beautiful period in the late 1970s.
Yeah.
And it was just a pleasure to work with him.
We had John Bow on here last week, and we've spoken to a number of, I guess, racers from that era. And, you know, particularly I had extensive conversations with John Goss, and we've spoken to Kevin Bartlett. And a lot of these guys, they were really engineers as well, weren't they? Like, they were building their own cars.
To a degree, they had to be engineers for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
As Kevin Bartlett would have told you, drivers think fast and engineers think slow. and so there was a bit of a disconnect in the genre, but at the same stage, yes, they had to have mechanical empathy, probably beyond that which is required of drivers today.
One of the things I guess for you now, you know, with these books and your own experiences, you get to go back and relive what I still believe is probably the, dare I say it to supercar fans out there today, but I still think it's the golden era of racing in Australia, certainly up until the mid-90s, I suppose. How do you feel about the state of racing today compared to, you know, if we look back to Group A, I suppose, and some of those?
Never look back, always look forward. It's
Yeah.
better now than it ever was.
Yeah.
And I mean it seriously. I mean, when you look at supercars today,
Yeah.
and you consider that less than 1 second separates 24 cars on the grid, the parity rules have just worked so well. The involvement of Toyota now, so it's not simply Chevrolet versus Ford.
Yeah.
The standard of driving is exceptional right across the field. It couldn't be better than right now. I mean, Supercars has become a series that deserves to go international. So, in answer to your question, no, it's better now than it ever was before.
Well, good. I'm glad we got that on the record.
Right.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, so you talk about, I guess, the skill set of drivers now. You know, I look back and I think of, I had a John Goss special, right? I've driven my fair share of old Fords and old cars, not at speed, but I have driven them, not at speed legally anyway. You know, how do you compare someone like, well, let's say Colin Bond or Alan Moffat wrestling an XC hardtop around Mount Panorama to, you know, the Chaz Mosters of this world or these guys these days?
Such a difficult question to answer.
It isn't it?
You know, what you're asking is Chaz better than Colin? And the answer is different. The cars in those days were set up entirely differently. They weren't built the same way. They were more production based. They did require a different form of driving to today's cars, which are effectively supercars. So it's almost impossible to compare the eras like for like, except to say that in those days it was more seat of the pants. There was no telemetry. Peter Brock, for example, absolutely hated telemetry, wouldn't go near it. You know, even the telltale on his car was too much of a witness to what he was doing out on the track.
Right.
Yeah, and you'd talk to his engineers who would say you would discover that Peter had wound back the telltale to disguise the over-rev before he got back to the pits. And I guess to a degree that pretty much sums up the drivers of that era compared to the drivers today who go back to their engineers and compare their result sheets, you know, their telemetry, you know, corner by corner, millimetre by millimetre, to see what they can find in terms of improvement.
But when you've only got a second between all those cars, you are looking for what is essentially millimetre by millimetre data, aren't you?
Absolutely. But for these guys also, there's no hiding anymore. There's nowhere to hide the mistake.
No.
And that puts a lot of pressure on the young guys today.
Yeah. It's a high pressure environment. I'm constantly amazed by how young these guys are when they come through, and the skills that they have at such a young age.
Oh, yeah, and I'd probably suggest to you that go-karting assisted the young guys of today. I mean, look at Brock Feeney.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Brock's dad persuaded his next-door neighbours to allow him to knock down their shared tennis court in Nerang and turned it into a go-kart track for young Brock to do laps when he was 8 years of age. And Brock couldn't be brought in until the sun had well gone down because he was there perfecting his now skill all day long in the go-kart. Now, go one step further, the advent of sims has absolutely changed that whole dynamic again, so that the drivers of today are mad keen sim fanatics. Yeah. They sit on their sims when they're not racing, honing their skill. I mean, it's a great thing to do, to see these young guys so intent on becoming good.
I guess we forget about that a little bit, some of us at home. That's really taken the racetrack home for them, hasn't it? They can spend as much time as they like, either at the factory or at home, honing their skills.
Well, Cam, with the cost of testing on track these days and the limitations that are imposed by the categories, there's not that much opportunity for them to get track time. So go-karting or sim work is their default position. I mean, even take, if at Formula One level, take Max Verstappen or Lando Norris.
Yep.
They spend more time on their home sims than they do in their race car, but they get better because of it.
It is phenomenal, and I think the category's doing really well and getting stronger and stronger. You've always got your naysayers, but I know that the parity rules, there are some fans out there that get quite hung up on all of that, but at the end of the day, you need cars to be equal so that we can extract who the best driver is, really, don't we?
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of the parity rules. Yeah, and I know there are people who boo and hiss because I said that, who want it to be open slather. But to me, get all of the mechanicals exactly equal and you'll know who the better driver is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen that. Unfortunately, we've lost a couple of them in the last few years with McLaughlin and Van Gisbergen going to the USA, but
haven't lost them. We've happily sent them upwards. Yes. Yeah.
So everyone though, week in, week out, and I watch my supercars very regularly, and but I also love the Touring Car Masters, and I love watching the older vehicles, even Porsche, Cup I'm into and all that. But I guess there's still always that allure of the end of the year and Mount Panorama, isn't there? And I saw something today with Betty Klemenko talking about Bathurst and how that's what they're aiming for. And we know that that's what the teams really want to win. Of course, they want to win a championship as well. Is it purely just the fact that it's a mountain and it's, what's the allure of Mount Panorama? What's the allure of Bathurst? There's so much prestige there. There's really nothing like it, is there?
It's the driver's circuit.
Yeah.
It's a circuit that challenges a driver more than pretty much any other track in the world, and is still available to them to challenge them.
Yeah.
Having said that, it doesn't have a Formula One race.
No.
It doesn't have a MotoGP. So what's the allure? Why does it still have this amazing aura about it? I mean, Tony Cochrane, who started Supercars, said at one stage, Peter Brock made Bathurst and Bathurst made Peter Brock. There's a lot to that, in as much as that era, again, pretty much defined the status of Bathurst as something really special.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think the technology that came through in the early 80s with race cam and all of a sudden being able to put cameras in the cars, and I think that first occurred at Bathurst. as part of the Channel 7 coverage.
You did. Peter Williamson, Toyota Celica, 1979.
Probably 79,
Yes.
There you go. And I think that probably played a significant role as well. You know, all of a sudden people could be actually in the car on Mount Panorama, which is, you know, a different thing.
What I love is that people make pilgrimages to Bathurst, not just for the races, but during the year. Now, you know, you go to the Nürburgring, you pay your €20 or whatever, and you get to have a speed around.
That's right.
Yeah, with a race car on one side of you and someone scraping a motorcyclist off the road on the other side. And it's sensational. At Bathurst, your speed limit is 60 kilometres an hour. You know, with a guarantee that you'll visit the Bathurst magistrate if you do 61.
Yeah.
So it's not the opportunity to speed around Bathurst that gets people there. It's just the allure of the mountain, of stopping at Brocky's skyline and looking over the edge and wondering how people ever manage to commit themselves to going up there, over there. There's the National Motor Museum at the bottom of the hill, which is a testament to Australian motorsport and the heritage of Australian motorsport. All of those things come together to make Bathurst incredibly important, not only for cars, but for bikes as well.
Stepping outside of Australia for a minute, I suppose, what are the other events around the world that you look forward to annually in terms of motorsport, but also just in terms of motoring and other things as well?
Oh, in terms of motorsport, it's the big three. It's the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah.
It's Indianapolis 500 and it's the Le Mans 24 Hours.
Yeah.
Only one driver has ever won those, all three of those, Graham Hill. And people have been trying for years. Fernando Alonso was the last person to try and failed at Indianapolis, you may recall, where he couldn't qualify.
Yeah.
Horrible thing. So I look forward every year to watching or being at one of those events. In terms of events outside motorsport itself, the racing itself, I love the museums. I have a deal going with my wife that whenever we travel, she gets two Duomos, two churches, to every one motoring museum.
That sounds like it's around the wrong way to me.
But no. Believe me, balance is everything. And in that respect, you get to go to some amazing and eclectic museums around the world, which just blow your mind.
Yep.
And for retro rides, I mean, that's just an amazing thing to do. With your commitment to the heritage of motoring in the world, going to things like the Schlumpf Museum in the Alsace district of France is just a must do.
Well, we did do, so far we did do the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart and the Mercedes Museum there and Goodwood and I've done Pebble Beach a couple of times and things like that. So they're all the things that we look forward to. Where do you see Supercars going, just to jump back to that again now? We've now got Toyota in there. Do you see other manufacturers coming on board in the next few years?
I think Supercars would be greedy to try and get other manufacturers on board right now. I think they owe it to the three manufacturers that are currently supporting them to give them a fair go before they try to bring in other manufacturers. Where would those manufacturers come from? I mean, we're living at the moment in an EV bubble.
I know.
It'll burst. But well, I've nothing against an electric car. I mean,
no, I don't either.
It's like beam me up, Scotty. You hit the loud pedal.
Yeah.
It's faster than you've ever been.
Yeah.
In an ICE vehicle. So there's a lot to be said for an electric vehicle. But would you get a BYD or a Geely to come to Bathurst and run under whatever regulation? Yeah. How would you do it? It's not a possibility in the current way of thinking. So is motorsport condemned to being retro? Is it condemned to being the last bastion of the internal combustion engine? Is that a bad thing? I mean, there are so many questions that are buzzing around at the moment in terms of the future of motorsport generally, not just the future of supercars.
Well, there's a lot of conjecture around Formula One, of course, with this regenerative braking systems that they have and everything else in there that the drivers seem to have distaste for.
It's not so much regenerative braking. That's been around for a while, and that's okay. But trying to embrace the hybrid activity at the highest level has not been a success for them.
Right.
But then on the other hand, if you look at Formula E, the electric series, that's doing okay, but no one cares. So no matter which way you go, they haven't got the formula right yet, and so very, very difficult to pick what the right formula would be. I would say that to the do-gooders, that before I started to try to fix the perceived emission concerns about the internal combustion engine in motorsport, I'd probably look to concussion and head injuries in rugby league. I mean, if you were going to try and fix the world in some way, I'd probably more be inclined to try and save young lives by doing something effective in those areas before I took on the alleged challenge of fixing emissions. I mean, isn't that such a small consideration?
I would have thought so.
That you really don't need to make it a major issue. In other words, leave it alone. It's not broken.
No. We could spend a lot of time talking about that.
Yeah.
And I sense we've got a similar point of view as well. So, just talking a little bit too about, I guess, the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can you tell us about your involvement with the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm currently the chairman of the Australian Motorsport Hall of Fame, which is the highest honour that can be bestowed on a racing driver or rider in this country. It was formed in 2016 by Motorsport Australia. It's now owned by the Australian Motorsport Council, which is the peak body comprising the 5 federations which run motorsport in Australia. You know, speedway, drag racing, go-karting, motorcycle racing and cars. Over 126 years since the very first motor race in Australia, there are only 105 members of the Hall of Fame. So it is
We've got some catching up to do.
No. It's a very prestigious thing. We're not trying to load it up with people. Far from it. You know, there's a very distinct selection process annually. Very hard to get in, and we want to keep it that way. You know, only the very best of the very best will ever be members of the Australian Motorsport Hall of Fame.
What is the criteria? Are you able to sort of summarise that for us?
You have to have achieved a position of excellence in the sport in which you participate. You have to be a role model. You have to be respected in the community and known in the community. And in terms of the role model, I think probably the most important criteria is that you provide an inspiration for generations to come. And while there are a lot of drivers out there who've achieved a hell of a lot in their careers, when you really come down to determining their achievements in all those criteria, it's a very limited situation in which you deal. There are 4 legends elevated above that of member, and those people are, of course, Sir Geoff Brabham, Alan Jones, Mick Doohan, and now recently Casey Stoner.
And absolutely all very, very deserving. I'll tell you, just as an aside, at the Noosa Concours last weekend, and Sam Brabham was there, Jack Brabham's grandson, of course, and there were a selection of Brabham cars there. And the interest in those vehicles still is phenomenal, but not only just from some of the older motorsport fans, if I can put it that way, but also from now their kids and their children's children too, because there's something about a noisy open wheel car that when it came down Hastings Street in the morning in a procession, that it still hasn't lost it, thank goodness. But motorsport is a sensory experience for the spectator, right? So it's all about the smell, the sound, the vibrations of the ground when the cars go past, all of those things, and to see that still alive and well, and being represented by probably, I think, a dozen Brabham cars last weekend in Noosa in Queensland was really something special. And Jack Brabham certainly left an incredible mark on Australian but also world motorsport.
Not only Jack, but Phil Irving, who was his engineer as well, and Ron Tornak, who built the cars for Jack. The three of them was a dynamic trio. The car you saw there on the weekend was the Repco Brabham BT19, with which Jack won the 1966 World Formula One Championship, the only time ever, either then or now, that a driver-constructor has ever won the world title. And that sets that car aside, which is why we made it a member of the Australian Motorsport Hall of Fame, the 100th member, in fact.
And the engines for those cars, some of them were provided by Repco. Is that true?
Well,
that's what I discovered last weekend.
Jack had a great idea.
Yeah.
He thought, because the series, the Formula One rules, were changing to a 3-litre series, and he worked out that a stock block Oldsmobile purchased out of the States, sleeved to 3 litres, but with the brilliance of Phil Irving's Repco cylinder heads on top of it, would be not the fastest car in the 1966 World Championship, but the most reliable one. And he picked it exactly right. There are other cars which were quicker, but most unreliable. And Jack just breezed on through and won the world title in a car that had effectively been designed by Repco in Melbourne at a time when Repco was looking to spread its wings globally as well, and it used this Repco Brabham as its headline act around the world.
Amazing. John, we could talk for hours.
Let's.
Well, we can do that. I'd love to have you back again at some stage in the future. I think there's lots to talk about. You've got an incredible knowledge of not just Australian motorsport, but Australian motoring, and also everything that's going on around the world. And so thanks very much for coming in and talking to us today. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Cam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, Supercars will argue.
Oh, hang on, sorry.
Can I do a Barnaby Joyce?
Sit down! Sorry, it's a dog.
Seriously.